This podcast is brought to you by patreon.com/Talking Simpsons. Head there to check out exclusive podcasts like Talking Futurama, Talk King of the Hill, the What a Cartoon Movie podcast, and tons more.
I heartily endorse this event or product.
Ahoy hoy everybody, and welcome to Talking Simpsons, where the hosts are essentially ballast. I'm your host, the little wiener who's always got his hands in his pockets, Bob Mackey, and this is our chronological exploration of The Simpsons, who is here with me today as always.
Hey, it's Henry Gilbert, and I'm still trying to be half the man Henry Winkler is.
And who do we have on the line? Our special guest today.
Dan McCoy, that's me, the voice you're hearing now.
And this week's episode is Saturdays of Thunder.
I don't always keep my cool like the Fonz, but my love for my kids has given me plenty of happy days.
This episode originally aired on November 14th, 1991, and as always, Henry will tell us what happened on this mythical day in real world history.
Oh boy, Bobby, the Cape Fear remake is released in theaters. An instance of going postal happens in Michigan that kills and injures 5 people, and Michael Jackson's Black or White music video debuts right after this episode all around the world.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
So both Cape Fear and a postal worker going postal, two things that will be later lampooned on The Simpsons.
Yes, quite heavily. In both cases, yeah.
But I think both in season 5.
Yes, yeah. Though I guess Cape Fear was at the end of production for, but it did air in season 5.
Yes.
Yeah. And that Cape Fear remake, as a little kid, I really only watched it because The Simpsons did an entire episode parodying it shot for shot. But when I later looked into it, at the time it was seen by movie fans as almost like Martin Scorsese selling out, because it was like, oh, he's making a remake and it's produced by Steven Spielberg. Boy, Scorsese's really selling out. Like, that was seen as him doing a Marvel movie of the time, I think, even. But, yes.
I mean, sorry to jump in, but it is my understanding that he was, to the degree that he needed a hit. He's like, what can I make that will actually make a significant amount of money, and that that's how you get a career. As someone nominally in show business, and this is funny to say since I have a podcast where I make fun of movies, but I always bristle when people are like, "Oh, they're selling out." It's like, well, no, I mean, yeah, he had to make money. You wanted a successful movie.
Well, Dan is a movie expert. Who's scarier? Robert De Niro in Cape Fear, the original one with Robert Mitchum. Who's scarier?
I mean, I understand that De Niro is perhaps the most lauded male actor of a generation, fighting it out with, I don't know, Pacino, Daniel Day-Lewis, but I don't know. He's not my guy. I like Robert Mitchum. I love.
I think what's the character's name? Max Cady? Is that the name of the character? Let's say it is. Let's say it is.
Yeah, I'm going.
Yeah,
I feel
think
like
that's
De Niro's
right.
version. I feel like De Niro's version would knife you, but Mitchum's version would just beat you to death with his bare fists. He was a much larger man.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, yeah, Mitchum did not have to work hard to exude an aura of dangerousness and mysterious dangerousness, like dangerousness that would take you off guard. He would be perfectly charming one moment and then dumping you in the river.
When he had to be scary with the Hays Code. Meanwhile, De Niro had this, R-rated creepiness to deal with. Him and his stuff with Juliette Lewis, so creepy in that movie.
Yeah.
And yes, the going postal thing, when I looked it up, oh yeah, this was the first instance of it. It was kills and injures 5. Whoop-de-doo. That's not even headlines in America these days, I tell you.
Yeah, I mean, it was such an isolated incident that I think until maybe this is gonna get dark. I'm sorry, but maybe until Columbine, people will be like, oh yeah, there was the guy in the Watchtower. There was the Luby's cafeteria and the Postal Service guy. 3 shootings. There were more, but now it's just who can keep track?
Yeah, impossible. Yes, yeah.
But yeah, that's not funny at all.
Yeah.
But who is funny is our special guest, Dan McCoy of the Flophouse podcast. Welcome to the show, Dan. And sorry to segue from spree killings to your name there. I apologize.
That's fine. I haven't said. I realize I haven't said anything funny yet, and I've probably alienated many in the audience by poo-pooing Robert De Niro, who I do actually like a lot. He's just not my favorite. But yeah, that's me, Dan McCoy. I won't get sidetracked on worrying what imaginary listeners are thinking about.
And I do believe, we've had some Emmy-nominated guests, but I do believe you're our first Emmy-winning guest on the podcast.
That's true. I still have half as many as my co-host Elliot, but I have a couple from my days at the Jon Stewart iteration of The Daily Show.
Yeah, well, and we're so happy to have you on. Like, me and Bob are big fans of the Flophouse, and we had Stewart on just a little bit ago. I guess we just need Elliot left for the full set, but it's so awesome to have you on here.
It should be like the Saturday Night Live Five Timers Club. We should work up some sort of special T-shirt we send to other podcasts that have like gotten all of us, because there's like a few out there. There's a few, collected them all, as the Pokemon trainers say.
Well, and Dan, I would guess as a comedy writer, you grew up enjoying The Simpsons, and do you recall watching this one live back in 1991?
Well, listeners at home will not know this, but my jaw dropped when you said that about the black and white video, because I stuck around to watch the black and white video afterwards, because they made a big, huge promotional push. And I remember very well that first time infamously then had Michael Jackson, after the video sort of proper, like as you would see it on MTV ended, he went around breaking car windshields and dancing atop them and screaming and a lot of crotch grabbing, and then he turned into a panther at the end, which was something that now, with time, I understand what he was trying to get at, but as a child was the most confusing thing to me, because I just seen a normal music video and then several minutes of him shattering windows and screaming. And
with
there was
no
a big
music accompaniment either.
No, that
just
was the
like
thing.
Silence.
Yeah, and there's a big cultural pearl clutching about it. I remember, people were not happy with that.
And I think later they digitally added racial slurs to the things he was breaking to explain, like, no, he's fighting racism. He's not mad about the media.
Yes,
like they were trying to retcon it into some sort of message about,
to give a little more context to it. Yeah, I do have a light history on that here. We talked about Michael Jackson quite a lot in the episode he guested on The Simpsons, but just a short version is, and also this is an episode where we got to talk about Bill Cosby and Michael Jackson. So not but he had the Bad album. That was his last one. Then he had been working on this video, and that would be the rollout of his next big album, that was going to be for the Christmas season of 1991. You could even assume that partially the reason he appeared on The Simpsons as well was to start the lead up to the promotion for this. So he did the black or white music video with the director of Thriller / murderer John Landis, and he and so
oh man, it's like a three-peat of problematic people on this episode.
But so it was planned to be this huge event, even bigger than his the Bad music video or any of these ones before. It was seen for a simultaneous worldwide debut on networks all over the planet. So it wasn't just America. Like we remember in America, it aired on MTV, BET, VH1, and Fox on network TV all at the same time. And it did the same in many other countries as well. It had, according to one article I read from the time, they estimated 500 million people watched it at the same time when it debuted. And the big part of it was, too, for Fox was they saved this episode because it's a Bart episode, and Bart is in the music video. The music video starts with Macaulay Culkin, and nobody remembers that Bart's in it because thanks to the stuff Dan mentioned of the dirty bit at the end, it ends with Homer seeing all that and then seeing Bart going like, yay, I love watching Michael Jackson. And Homer comes in like, turn that off. And he turns off the TV. And that's how the music video ends. But nobody knows that because after this first airing, it got so much disapproval, at least in the U.S., that they never played that pretty much ever again on broadcast TV. Like, I found a New York Times article from just the day after talking about it and saying that it led to Fox's highest ratings to that point, but that also a ton of negativity, like of concerned people calling in. And so on 7:30 on Sunday, they were going to do a Michael Jackson whole special, like a 30-minute special, and they were going to play the music video again, but they cut it down to the version we all grew up seeing replayed a million times on MTV.
It ends with morphing.
Yeah, it ends with the amazing face morphing, which was pretty crazy to see the first time.
You know, you're solving a mystery that had existed in my own mind just now, because I was like, yeah, why did I stick around? Like, look, I mean, as problematic and probably evil a figure, you know, depending on where the truth lies, as at least confusing, at the very least confusing a figure as Michael Jackson is, I have, you know, grown to like, I think he's a brilliant musical artist. I didn't when I was a kid, though. Like, when I was a kid, my parents only played like classical music and show tunes around the house. Like, it took me a long time to like catch up to like pop music to the point where I could understand like what a figure Michael Jackson was in that world. So I can only assume that I stuck around for the promise of Bart being in the video. Like, that was the tissue. I mean, and I assume that's what, you know, they counted on.
Yeah, Henry and I think we're both too young to be into Michael Jackson. Like, as I was getting into music, he was getting canceled, for lack of a better word. And then it was a joke to even be into him. But I think I got into him for the first time when he died, and all of his music started being circulated again. And we were all like, let's forget don't look anything up. Just enjoy the nice beats, the nice songs.
You can't do any more harm.
Yeah.
Let's just think about the music.
But yeah, not until I was an adult that he wasn't like a playground joke.
No, I love this music video as a kid. I watched it happily, or the first part anyway. Like, I thought it was a good song as a little kid, but also what pulled me in was that Macaulay Culkin like is at the start of it, which it's like, you know, honestly a very calculated thing that it's like you start with Macaulay Culkin and you end with Bart Simpson. I mean, calculated in that these are the two most popular like kids in America at the time.
The kids were there for Macaulay, and the dads were there for George Wendt.
Yes, that's true. Yeah,
let's not forget his.
George
I mean, Cheers
Wendt.
is huge. Yeah,
it's true.
I was like, I knew that the guy was somebody. I was like, was it John Goodman? No, it's okay.
Yeah, we're forgetting Cheers was the #1 sitcom in 1991.
Yeah, actually, you know what? Cheers, right after this, an hour after this music video aired, there was a brand new episode of Cheers that got more viewers than the black or white airing on Fox did. Just on
Fox,
but
making it funny. Like, for me to think about, like, for me, you know, George Wendt's character, Norm in Cheers, was just like, as a kid, I did love him because he's like this big, lovable, like, sad sack, you know, guy who just, you know, wants to hang out. And, you know, now looking back, I'm like, oh, it's so bizarre kind of that I love this character who the whole point is he's sort of a sad alcoholic.
He had some good quips.
Yeah, many great quips. Yeah. And hiding from his wife for years and years at that bar. The Bart Simpson bit of it was not seen for many years, like officially. I think, you know, I remember in the late 90s, VH1, sometime when I watched it, they made a big deal of like, we're going to show the full black or white music video that hasn't been seen in years. Like, but I mean, people taped it, so it was out there. And now you can just watch the full thing on YouTube uploaded. So yes, it was. That's the history of the black or white music video that aired with this, which caused about I'd say a little under 2 minutes to be cut from this episode to make room for it, because it aired between this and an episode of Drexel's Class. That's so you had Simpsons, black or white music video, Drexel's Class.
That had to be the highest rated Drexel's Class ever.
Yeah.
And it's like one short pitiful season.
But it didn't save it from being canceled after one season.
Poor Dabney Coleman.
Yes,
The other thing I loved unlikely as a kid was Dabney Coleman, because I love Cloak and Dagger, that movie. So I'm like, I'm all in on this guy.
I really like the movie where he thought he was going to die. I think it was called Short Time.
Yeah.
So he was living very recklessly, but it turned out he wasn't going to die.
Yeah.
In the end.
I never
Spoilers.
saw that one.
You're not a Dabney Coleman fan, Henry?
You know, I liked him in tons of stuff, like 9 to 5. He's great. He was great, yeah. But as he's always a great mean boss. Was he? No, he wasn't in Problem Child. What other kid movie, or was he in Problem Child?
Well, not a kid movie, but I saw him a lot as a kid when I would watch War Games all the time. He was in that too.
Oh, yeah, I remember that. Yeah, but and one other behind-the-scenes thing to deal with in this one is that this is an episode. If you're always wondering, like, why are they so mean to Mary Tyler Moore in this episode? Well, the reason is because this is the second episode written by Ken Levine and David Isaacs, who had a bad time working with her.
Yeah, they created her sitcom, her post-Mary Tyler Moore sitcom. Apparently, she has a history with alcoholism, and she had just gotten out of rehab and not in a great mood. And she was not very far away from the suicide of her son.
Well,
the alleged suicide of her son.
They say it was a shotgun accident. Let's not, but yes, the death of her son at the very least. Yeah, there's one of many sad things about Mary Tyler Moore's life was that, like, right after Ordinary People, her son actually died.
I think it was before.
Oh, was it before? Oh, okay.
And she carried that into her role.
Ooh, boy.
Yeah.
Man, that's harsh. Boy. I've not seen that movie. It's but Ken Levine on his blog back in 2006, he was very clear about, like, oh yeah, here's what somebody asked him once, like, who's one person you never work with again and aren't afraid to name? Mary Tyler Moore. Wait, let me rephrase that. All caps, Mary Tyler Moore.
Is that why they also make fun of Linda Lavin later?
I think so too. I think somebody else didn't like working with Linda Lavin. Yeah, so also Mary Tyler Moore's career was not in a good place either, because she was huge in the 60s on the Dick Van Dyke Show, then in the 70s with her own show, the Mary Tyler Moore Show, which started her own production company, and she's a huge, like, incredibly successful producer. But the 80s, less good to her, and she works with Levine and Isaacs to create a show called Mary in 1985, and it just does really, really bad. It does not, and so they are having a horrible time working with her on it while she's getting bad reviews. And also too, yeah, she had diabetes also. Like, she's suffering through all of this as an aging woman in Hollywood, who also everybody, I mean, maybe she wasn't, I could believe that she wasn't nice to work with, but also, like, she was a female executive in Hollywood working on creative things, probably is doubted at all times on any choice she ever made. Also went through a very bad marriage at the time too, like it, and people are making fun of her all the time for the cosmetic surgery she's getting. Like, she was having a rough time, and I do think after she died, on his blog, Ken Levine was a little nicer to Mary Tyler Moore. I think he understood better what she was going through.
Sorry, apologies. This is jumping ahead a bit, but one thing that kept striking me while watching this episode, there's a lot of things in it that have a different context, or had a different context when it was originally aired, than anyone sort of would be aware of now. And on the topic of feuds, of course, I'm sure it's been mentioned before, but there's like a lot of Bill Cosby material in this. And Cosby was their, time slot rival that they were up against a lot, and there was, no love lost in terms of, like, making fun of Cosby. But now it plays as a totally different thing. I mean, number one, it just plays like, oh, they're just referencing Cosby, but then there's the whole nother level of how Bill Cosby's place in culture has plummeted into the depths of the toilet.
At the time, it was just a fun rivalry, and I think, the show moved to Thursdays for a few years to go against the Cosby Show was a huge mistake, because it dropped out of the top 10 immediately. And I think the one time they did beat Cosby was a rerun, once, and that was basically it. So it amounted to nothing, and they moved the show back to Sundays in season 6?
Yes,
okay.
Yeah. See, Cosby ended before they went back to Sundays.
They're in their last season right now, Cosby Show, in 92.
There's and we'll play it when it happens, but there's also a funny bit about them wishing him well and saying, like, oh, he wanted to end the show before it outstayed its welcome, which also a joke that feels different with time. But yeah, also just the behind the scenes on this, where the idea come from. Well, Al Jean and Mike Reiss are very smart at, like, remembering a line from a previous episode and thinking that'd be a good episode, which in the Itchy and Scratchy and Marge episode, when there's no more cartoons on TV and the kids stop watching, Bart and Lisa describe all the fun things they were doing while not watching cartoons, and they're building soapbox racers together. It's the line as Bart says, "Come on, Lisa, let's go finish our soapbox racers."
But also, it's kind of a thin premise, so characters watch TV for about 5 minutes of the episode.
There is so much television watching in this one. Yes, yeah, yes. It's such an easy thing of like, well, then they watch TV, and so we got another joke here. Let's watch a movie. Let's watch an infomercial. You get, that's the best stuff in this episode is all of the TV parodies. Like, this is some of the best movie and TV parodies they ever had. The racing stuff, it's all right, I think, but there's some of the best, funniest stuff they ever watched on TV in this episode, for sure. Let's begin in earnest then. The chalkboard gag is first Bart talking about faking rabies, which he will do in season 4 episode, but only because they have to change the line due to sensitivity concerns. But then we get, I got the whole clip here for our first clip. Infomercial series, first scene in Lisa versus the 8th Commandment is back. I can't believe they invented it.
Products you could only imagine before. The Foam Dome. The Jet Walker. Mr. Sugar Cube. That baby changed our lives.
I'm actor Troy McClure. You might remember me from such TV series as Buck Henderson, Union Buster, and Troy and Company's Summertime Smile Factory. But I'm here to tell you about Spiffy, the 21st century stain remover. Let's meet the inventor, Dr. Nick Riviera.
Thank you, Troy. Hi, everybody. Hi, Dr. Nick. Troy, I brought with me the gravestone of author and troubled soul Edgar Allan Poe.
One of our best writers.
Yes, but unfortunately, a century of neglect has turned this tombstone into a depressing eyesore.
So what? I guess we're going to have to throw it away.
Not so fast, Troy. With one application of Spiffy, you'll think the body's still warm.
Ooh. Quoth the Raven, what a shine.
God, I love every Troy McClure is the greatest. I love it so much.
It struck me upon this viewing that Nick Riviera committed a crime by stealing the gravestone
yes.
of a very popular author just to show off his cleaning product.
Yes, yeah. It's and I mean also it's like a crime against good taste, like to just steal a gravestone just to clean it off. God. Mr. Sugar Cube is also another of my favorite jokes. Like one that you see that it even in their demonstration it takes a whole bag of sugar to make 3 cubes, and then you see Homer's actual cubes are just lumpy, ugly cubes too, so it doesn't even work well.
Well, yeah, we covered this on the first I Can't Believe They Invented It, but this was the era of not just infomercials, but ones that were kind of like fake TV shows with a host and an expert. And Mr. Show has a really good one of those too with the magic pans.
Yes, yeah.
But yeah, this era is long dead. I assume there are still infomercials, but I don't think any have taken this format in close to 30 years.
Right, and that relates actually heavily to what I wanted to say about this too, is when I talked before about how, I don't know, just having lived at this time and revisiting it now and like seeing how the context of things have changed, this really felt like the time period to me for a number of reasons that have since changed. Like whether it be, like you say, they don't like really do this type of infomercial anymore, at least not sort of like in the middle of the day like they used to, but like the specific format especially. But also that back then there would be so few channels. I mean, particularly if you're like a home like The Simpsons and maybe you don't have cable, you just sit around on a Saturday and you would watch an infomercial about a thing. You know, like part of it is Homer's personality, but part of it is just like, yeah, you know, you might do that.
No, that's true. I mean, after cartoons ended, I swear I probably watched that infomercial about the food dehydrator maybe 30 times, and I seriously thought it would change my family's life. Like, think of all the things we're not dehydrating in the house.
You're missing out, Dad.
Yeah. It makes
makes
food smaller and drier.
I also love that Homer is in an undershirt too. Like, just he so rarely is drawn that way, but I like that Homer he's like, you know what, time to take off my work shirt. Like it's time for the weekend and just to drink my orange drink with sugar cubes in it for extra sugary sweetness in it. that foam dome, it pays off later. He'll be wearing it at the in Act 3. I also Buck Henderson Union Buster is such a great idea for an like that. It's a proud TV show of the 70s that's about breaking unions instead of being on the side of the working man. It's like, yes, the Union Buster, finally, his story. And yes, Dr. Nick is now graduated to being a TV pitchman as well at this point. And I also love that he describes Edgar Allan Poe as a troubled soul. Like that's what he's remembered.
And it feels like McClure is throwing in like one of our nation's best writers, like just the most generic fact about him.
Yes, yeah.
Well, that's probably like, it feels like that's almost how he got the gravestone. He's just like, just bring me one of the top guys. Like,
though if you'd like to see the real Edgar Allan Poe gravestone, which is much more involved and nice looking than the one here, you can visit it at the Westminster Cemetery in Baltimore, Maryland. Which
can you clean it? Are you allowed to?
I would guess they probably have a guard who makes sure you can't touch it.
It's not like Jim Morrison's grave.
And also, yes, the great line like, "Oh, well, I guess we're just gonna have to throw it away." And not so fast, Roy.
This thing where someone throws a chair at Troy, another thing that is just without context, you're like, oh, it's just a physical comedy gag. But no, it's based on someone throwing a chair at Geraldo.
Yes,
which you can also see in the parody in the movie UHF from Weird Al.
Right.
So this entire episode of Geraldo is on YouTube. It's the November 4th, 1988 episode. It's about white supremacy, and a brawl breaks out on the stage between the two groups, and a chair is thrown at poor Geraldo. He comes back from the break with a huge bandage over his face.
Wow.
Which you can see parodied more specifically in UHF.
Well, I also like that he offers a state of Kansas Jello mold, which is just a rectangle. Like it's not actually a state.
The people are ready to kill him, but as soon as he mentions that, they're waving their money. It's the first shut up and take my money, right?
Yes, yeah. Well, it's the difference between $39.95 and $29.95. That's what really
I also love the genuine distress that Dr. Nick seems to be going through when he's asked to make it cheaper. Like, you get the feeling that unlike most things where it's like we've thrown some cheap plastic together and they're making a mint, like Dr. Nick actually can't afford to go any lower, and Troy's just like, just do it. Like, I don't forget his line.
Find a way.
Find a way.
Yeah, this is not a scripted infomercial. He's bartering live on the air.
He's like, but how can I make it low? I just love it. It's like, but how can I make it lower?
Find a way.
I'm offering 3 bottles, enough to clean 1,000 tombstones, for only $39.95.
I'm afraid you're gonna have to do better, Doctor.
Yeah, give us a break, Doctor.
But Toy, how can I make it lower than $39.95?
Find a way.
Hey, Homer, I can't find the safety goggles for the power saw.
If stuff starts flying, just turn your head.
Oh, check.
Okay, I'll throw in a 4th bottle, the applicator glove, and a state of Kansas Jello mold, $29.95.
Okay, calm down.
And so, yes, he offers all the stuff, and that's when Homer just loses it. And I just love his feverish hitting of the keypad, just like his fingers can't hit it. He's like,
this is a pre-dialing wand.
right.
He's mashing that thing.
I love that. But yes, then meanwhile, as Homer's making all that calls, we're getting the visit of Patty and Selma, and they're checking in on potential hairstyles. It's the gals go to the beauty salon for this episode, and they're having a joke at Patty's expense and the perceived sexuality of her, with her rejecting a haircut as too butch by her standards, which makes you wonder what it is. But yes, they finally decide on a hairstyle, and that's when Homer is put in charge with the kids in our next clip.
What's the matter? Can't you find a hairstyle you like? Huh? Hold the phone. That's the one for me. Ed Asner? No. Next to him, Mary Tyler Moore.
Expiration date, June 1989, 2012, yeah.
Homer, are you ordering junk off the TV again?
Shh, they'll hear you.
Who's using the power tools?
I don't know, some guy, I guess.
Well, we're going to the beauty parlor. Maybe I should do something with the kids while I'm gone.
Oh, sure, great idea. I'd love to. No! Did you hear that?
Yes,
How much?
everything.
What's the quickest, cheapest, easiest way to do something with you?
Take us to the video store?
Anything for my little girl. Bart! You can't weld with such a little flame. Stupid kid.
Well, Bart's retinas are charred like hamburger. That boy is.
Yes,
That boy's blind. Don't do that.
Yes, a lot of things you should not be repeating in this episode.
It seems like it is the. Oh, go ahead, Dan.
Well, you're so much more polite than my co-host that throws me
I guess
off.
we're the
Like,
anti-Elliotts.
I'm just like, wait, you're deferring to me? No, I just wanted to say that I think that Julie Kavner maybe doesn't get the credit that some of the others do just because she has such a distinctive voice. She can't, do a lot of other ones, and so some of the people whose voices are more elastic, get a lot of credit. But the way that she said Mary Tyler Moore, like the reverence, like she's so funny.
I mean, yeah, she can only do a few voices, but nobody else sounds like her.
Yeah.
And it does seem like the most useless hairstyle book because it's apparently grouped by TV show.
Yeah.
It's just like there's a bald man and also Mary Tyler Moore on the same page.
Yeah, I love that joke so much because it's when Patty points at a photo of Ed Asner and Mary Tyler Moore together, Marge's first thought was like, oh, well, she must mean Ed Asner. She wouldn't mean Mary Tyler Moore as her haircut.
Yeah.
Which, I should have mentioned, too, during Homer watching all this stuff, Bart is just moving in and out of the scene, doing stuff that Homer completely ignores.
The Simpsons will be right back.
Bart enters the race of a lifetime.
Where's your loser-mobile?
Loser-mobile. Wait a minute.
Another episode of The Simpsons is next.
And now the moment you've been waiting for. Don't touch that dial. He's bad. He's cool. He's dangerous. He's the king of pop music. My main man, Michael Jackson.
Hey everybody, it's Henry welcoming you to this break, and we hope you're enjoying this with a nice cold foam dome on your head. And a big thank you to our guest this week, Dan McCoy. It was awesome to talk to him, and we love the Flophouse, so it was so cool to have him on to talk about this classic episode of The Simpsons and to really set it in time for such a big night of the premiere of a certain music video too. So thank you so much, Dan. Please check out the Flophouse if you haven't yet, and follow him on Twitter. And if you enjoy this podcast, you should know that Talking Simpsons is only possible because of listeners like you who support me and Bob at patreon.com/Talking Simpsons. Because of subscribers there who pledge $5 a month, this is me and Bob's full-time job. And that $5 a month gets you more than just helping me and Bob. It also gets you a ton, and I mean a ton, of exclusive content. Each month you get a brand new episode of Talking Futurama and Talk King of the Hill, where we talk about both of those animated series one episode at a time, just like we do with The Simpsons. And if you sign up then, you also get access to the giant back catalog of over 100 exclusive miniseries series of us covering The Critic, Mission Hill, our 10 favorite episodes of Batman the Animated Series, some old interviews too, lots of great stuff on there. So please check it all out at patreon.com/Talking Simpsons to see what you're missing out at that $5 level. But if you want something even nicer than a State of Kansas Jell-O mold and a bottle of Spiffy, then you should sign up at the premium $10 level at patreon.com/Talking Simpsons, because you get access to all of the $5 things I just told you about. And then you get our monthly super duper awesome podcast, What a Cartoon Movie. Me and Bob covering an animated feature film, crazy in depth, just like we do an episode of The Simpsons. That means often talking for over 5 hours about an animated feature film, sometimes even 6.5 hours like we did with Who Framed Roger Rabbit. This month we're wrapping up our summer of the Disney Renaissance. We just covered Beauty and the Beast. Before that we did The Little Mermaid, and at the end of August we're covering The Rescuers Down Under, mate. And the month after that It's Beavis and Butthead Do the Universe. And there's a giant back catalog, almost 4 full years of What a Cartoon movies. We're getting close to 300 hours of just What a Cartoon movie you could be listening to, in addition to all of the other stuff. Movies like South Park Bigger, Longer, and Uncut, Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse, a Goofy movie, Akira, Kiki's Delivery Service, so many. Iron Giant, Shrek. You're missing out if you don't sign up at the $10 level at patreon.com/Talking Simpsons to hear it all. Yeah, and I love Homer's defenses in this of like, they'll hear you of ordering stuff.
2012, once a distant year.
Yes.
Now a decade ago.
Decade ago, only older. Yes.
Well, also, like, nothing that Marge is saying at that moment is going to incriminate him. Like, she's just like, "Are you ordering crap off TV again?" And he's like, "Shh, they'll hear you," because he's just been in the midst of his unrelated scheme to try and just lie about an expiration date as if that's going to go through.
He doesn't want to offend the company. He's like, if you call this, if you insult their product, they're gonna look at. They might not sell it to me. Also, Homer's like some guy, I guess. Like he doesn't.
He's too distracted.
I mean, let's talk about the joys of the video store as a kid.
Yeah. I love how this kind of fairly useless scene in the grand scheme of things, how it like luxuriates in the video store and just brings me back to the idea of being a kid in the video store with just almost limitless possibilities, just like paralyzed by choice in a fun way, not like in the streaming network way. Like you have to leave with something.
Yeah, you got to pick something, and that's the movie you're watching, and you got to think hard about it. Like it takes a lot of work in the video store.
I also love that Homer in that scene is like the video store clerk's worst nightmare in that, like, you know, the normal person is not going to be satisfied with just seeing one movie, one like little clip of a movie. They'll want the whole context. They'll want to see the whole thing. But I feel like his response of like, "Why would I? I just saw the best part," is kind of like what video stores feared back in the early days when they didn't kind of know what the whole thing was. They're like, "Oh, if we show a movie all day, is that taking away part of our revenue?" Like, it's such a specific thing from the time, I think.
Well, Homer is right. This is the best McBain short,
Yes,
if you want to call it
of
that.
all the scenes of McBain we ever see. Yeah,
and it's so memorable that there is now an action figure based on Scoey.
Yes, yeah, you can get the whole sold by Super 7. They did a full set, the 3-figure set. McBain, Senator Mendoza, and Scoey, and it's Scoey with his gunshot wounds, and he has the Live Forever photograph with him, like of the boat.
Did Rainier Wolfcastle mention like Scoey in another context? Was he like on his talk show?
Yes, he was the band leader in Up Late with McBain.
Yes, that's right. Who his jacket made him look like a homosexual.
They're the same.
Yes. So I guess
I never realized that was like a callback, basically.
Yeah, McBain has a real life name, but he just calls the actor who played Scoey.
Yes, yeah,
yeah.
But yeah, as a little kid, it's funny to see this joke from both sides of it, because as a little kid, I was like, wow, the video store. Mom's going to take me and my brother to the video store. I can pick one, maybe even I can get one new release and one old movie because that's cheaper. And then that's my whole weekend. I can watch all these movies. And I saw it as so luxurious. But we can see it from Homer's side where he's just like, all right, what's the cheapest, easiest thing? It's like, okay, video store, like $20 tops, you're out of there, you know? Yeah.
Well, also, my confusion there, too, is that, like, do the Simpsons have 2 VCRs? Because he rents the football injury video while they're there, but the whole ostensible purpose of it was to give Lisa something to do. So is she just I mean, I guess she could be picking it out for later, but it really felt like he's like getting her a video to get, you know, her off his back for the next couple hours too.
Yeah, it seems like a very Homer thing to rent her and him both a video, and then he doesn't let her watch it, and he just watches it himself.
Yeah, it seems like he watches that tape as soon as he gets home.
But they head to VHS Village, formerly the Beta Barn, and this is when I also, if you can chart, I got to play the whole clip because I love the Mendoza scene so much, but you can chart the history of McBain as a film through the continuity of the series, because so in The Way We Was, the first McBain appearance, we see it being reviewed on the Siskel and Ebert type show. Then in Oh Brother, Where Art Thou episode in season 2 later, Abe is seeing it at a discount theater with Jasper. So
that's the ending, right?
Yes, he sees the ending, and so it's gone to the cheaper theaters. Its theatrical run is ending, and now here in season 3, it's out on video. So time has passed in for McBain.
They really had a plan with this.
They really did.
It's surprising.
But yes, here is the famous Mendoza scene.
Come on, live a little, Scoy.
No, thank you. Got me a future, partner. I'm 2 days away from retirement. My daughter's graduating from college.
Little Susie's growing up.
And as soon as we nail Mendoza, my old lady and I are gonna sail around the world like we always wanted. We just christened the boat. Oh, yes, sir. Everything's gonna be just Damn. McBain.
Yes?
I'm not gonna make it.
Oh, stop talking crazy.
No. Just do one thing for me. Get Mendoza.
Mendoza!
You want to rent it, sir?
Why? I just saw the best part.
Yeah, usually when I watch this, I'm just stunned because it is actually well-directed action despite it being so ridiculous. The one new thing I caught this time was we see the shooting from many different angles with some that actually make it look like less exciting. So we see it once through a keyhole and then once from behind like a ship's wheel in the restaurant. Just like, where else can we show the shooting from? They're not necessarily interesting shots, but they're just trying to get every angle on the shooting.
The big new joke I caught this time was I love McBain's very flat McBain, yes. Like he's looking at his completely shot up friend. He's just like, yes. Like it's a great joke about Schwarzenegger as an actor too. Yes.
Well, that's exactly what I was going to say. Was like, look, I really like Arnold Schwarzenegger in a lot of his movies. I think he's extremely good at what he does, like the specific thing that he does, and he has a flair for comedy. And as he's gotten older, he's even gotten pretty good at acting on top of all of that. But at the time, like that sort of thing that, I don't know, this, like, it's not just a Schwarzenegger impression. It really captures his complete inability to do the emotional part of acting, in those types of movies.
And then he has to like pull up then after that very flat yes, he's like, okay, and now Mendoza, and just screams it so hard.
Yeah.
And Harry Shearer's trying real hard. Harry Shearer these days, people talk about how he doesn't try as hard as he used to. Or
he's also
old.
like 80 years old now.
He is giving everything in that Mendoza there, man.
This is great, but remember, this is the second time it's like we're watching Homer watch something.
Yes,
in Act 1.
Already. And we're gonna watch him do that 2 more times.
Exactly.
Yeah. So I also love. It feels like such a perfectly observed thing about Schwarzenegger films then of the 80s, where the script was clearly written for like a regular guy when they had the line of like, man, you keep eating those hot links, you're gonna die early. And it's like he's saying this to a man with a Mr. Olympia body. The line doesn't make sense, but they kept it in the film, which is just so great. Also, I'm thinking about how the black or white music video comes after this and gets all this like, negative attention for him grabbing his crotch and smashing stuff and the violence. But this is so violent for a show that was watched by so many children, like blood everywhere, just exploding everywhere.
Scoey dies like that one guy in RoboCop.
Yes, yeah. Oh, and it's actually funny you mentioned RoboCop because what this is parodying is, more directly, is the Dirty Harry films, because in most of the Dirty Harry films, usually he is given a partner who is then murdered, and then that drives Dirty Harry to do more violence. The 2, I think, most famous versions of that partner death thing, they were both African-American actors, and both the black actors actors were in Magnum Force, Felton Perry, who was in RoboCop as Go Robo, like the classic thumbs up guy. And then Albert Popwell in Sudden Impact. So Gene and Reese love this joke about Dirty Harry's partners dying so much that they make an entire parody of it in The Critic as well, where he's given like 17 partners and half of them explode by the end of the sketch. So. But well, Dan, what's what's your professional movie opinions on the Dirty Harry films? Have you seen many of them?
I think I've seen them all except for there's some in between Dirty Harry and Deadpool is the last one. Like those are very distinct in my mind, and the ones in the middle kind of get mixed up. Like which one is it? And I keep being convinced that there's like one of them that I haven't seen, but I can't remember the title, so I'll like repeatedly watch those middle ones trying to catch it, and I think by now I've probably seen them all.
Well,
but I don't know. I like the first one very much. It's like total fascist.
It's a fascist movie
version
for sure.
Of
yes.
policing.
I like.
You have to be able to accept that as camp or whatever gets you through it, but it's good.
I don't blame you, Dan. All the movies run together because they're named like romantic comedies where the names don't indicate what they are. It's like Maximum Force. Like, well, which one is this?
Yeah.
Magnum Force is a funny...
Magnum Force. I even got it wrong.
Those are the only two I remember. The first one in Magnum Force, because in Magnum Force...
Sudden Impact, I think, is one.
Magnum Force is the second one, and that's the one where Suzanne Summers is in the opening and she gets like killed in it. But also that in that one, I think is a response to people bringing up how fascistic the first one was, about how it's like, finally a cop can shoot people in the face, about time. I think their attempt to alter course on that is in Magnum Force, spoilers for Magnum Force, a bunch of dirty cops are the villains in that, and ultimately Dirty Harry kills a bunch of his evil cop brethren in it to show that, see, Dirty Harry doesn't like bad cops either. I think that was their attempt at a response in that movie.
Guys, the one that I forgot is The Enforcer. How could I possibly forget a distinctive title like The Enforcer?
And also, this joke of just screaming to the heavens in that movie, I remember laughing when it was used legitimately in the movie Wolverine Origins or X-Men Origins Wolverine, because he screams to the sky like twice in that movie. It's incredible that they just so hackily do that. But yeah, so after that, that's when Homer shops around for other VHSs. We walk through a whole sports section, and also there's an Elvis section too. There's a little comedy in the VHS boxes here. But now all these clips of sports violence, that's just what you watch online. Like, you don't rent a whole VHS to see it. Like, sports clips, that's just the internet now. If you want to watch a guy, the most recent one of those I remember was there's some major league player, I forget, but a foul ball, it was not a horrible injury, but it was that a foul ball bounced off his butt, and it was like, wow, this guy's got a shapely behind here, this dude. Yes.
Yeah. No, he had a good butt.
But
good butt.
Homer then gets football's greatest injuries, which is also funny because we just recorded, though I think you're going to hear it after this episode, listeners, the Half Decent Proposal episode, where there's a joke about Homer buying Marge a hockey fight tape. So they're
keeping it consistent.
Yeah. But yes, I also love his big excitement at, Lisa, we're going, just like, let's get out of here. Like,
all the movies are great.
Yeah. But yes, sorry listeners, it's time for the return of Henry's Tale of the Tape, because I taped this one off of TV when it aired and rewatched it a million times. And so the version that's on the DVD and on streaming for Disney Plus, it's the not edited down to make room for black or white episode. So there's the 80 seconds I've never seen before, or I've now seen many times rewatching it on DVD and Disney Plus, but it still feels like new scenes to me because the one ingrained in my brain from the VHS is from that. And so Lisa asking about the Happy Little Elves tape, not in the original broadcast. It's brand new to me to this day. They were pretty much done with Happy Little Elves jokes at this point, I think, for Lisa.
It's a late appearance.
Yes. Then we head to the beauty salon. This is when they're reading basically Peephole magazine, not Peephole. This is when they find the fatherhood test, which Al Jean says he gives himself that test all the time to make sure he's still a good dad, and he can answer these questions about his own kid.
I like this the supposed quote from Henry Winkler that you mentioned up front, Henry, another Henry.
Yes,
because listen to what he told a close friend.
I love that. Yeah, it's like close friend, and it's such a carefully curated PR statement. He would not just say offhand to a close friend.
Well, also, I mean, this is another thing where I'm like, oh, this played differently at the time because, of course, everyone still had great affection for Henry Winkler because he was the Fonz, a very, like one of the top memorable TV characters of, I guess, just before my childhood, but like, still everyone would watch it in reruns and such. But he had not yet become what he is now, where he's had several like late career resurgences in highly respected TV comedies, and now I feel like people really think of him as like this elder statesman, and it helps that everyone says that he's like a really nice man.
Oh yeah, I mean,
but I think at this period, like it was more of a campy reference to be like, oh, Henry Winkler.
Remember
like,
that guy?
He was kind of on his dip. Yeah.
No, yeah, he's. I mean, Arrested Development made him famous to a new generation, and then on Barry, like he's getting like the kind of accolades like that Bob Odenkirk or Bryan Cranston got on Breaking Bad. Now he's getting it on Barry, and wow, he like I believe he's already won an Emmy for it, and I think he's nominated again this year for the most recent season of Barry. And I should mention too that like literally every time I hear people tell a story about working with Henry Winkler, you would believe he is an angel from heaven. Like everybody's just like the nicest person that ever has lived, who remembers everything and is just so nice. And right now he's going viral because he's tweeting a lot whenever he catches a fish. He is.
Oh yeah.
It's like, hey, look at my fish. I'm seeing that in my feed all the time of old Henry Winkler.
All of his pictures look like Tinder dating profile pics. Just a guy holding a fish.
And also, you know what? He'd later appear in season 11's Take My Wife Sleaze.
That's right, future guest.
Yeah.
So Helmer watches this tape, right?
Yes.
And there's this voice you've never heard before. You're like, who is this guy? It's the announcer. It's not Harry Shearer. It's not Hank Azaria. It's not Dan. It's this guy named Larry McCoy. And I assume he's a Fox production person because his only other credits are doing a TV announcer voice on Married with Children. So for some reason, he's in this episode, but he has like 3 roles to date. I don't know if he's alive still, but it's just weird to have this different voice.
Yeah.
When all the male actors on the show can do an announcer voice, here's this new guy. I don't know why they brought him in, but there he is.
It's very distracting. Yeah. Now this galloping gazelle scene and the guy getting his neck snapped, which that was not in the original airing either. I missed out on that.
Did you miss the Joe Theismann joke?
That was in there, which I love that Homer. That is so dark that Homer's like, you made me miss Joe Theismann, which like who wants to rewatch his horrific injury and this career-ending injury? It makes everybody sad. Like Homer's this sicko who wants to see it. Homer reacts to the sisters arriving too and thinks they look ridiculous. I believe Selma's hair is supposed to look like the Farrah Fawcett of the 70s, or definitely I think it's Farrah Fawcett from the famous poster. But this is when Homer must take his fatherhood quiz.
Question 1. Name one of your child's friends.
Let's see. Bart's friends. Well, there's the fat kid with a thing. The little wiener who's always got his hands in his pockets.
I want a name, Homer, not a vague description.
Okay. Hank?
Hank? Hank who?
Hank Jones.
Homer, you made that up. Question 2. Who is your son's hero?
Dave McQueen.
That's your hero. Name another dad you talk to about parenting.
Next.
What are your son's hobbies?
Well, he's always chewing on that phone cord.
He hasn't done that since he was 2.
Then he has no hobbies.
Oh, really? Well, maybe you should go out to the garage and see.
Bart! Bart!
What?
You don't have any hobbies, do you, boy?
No, not really.
Well, that's what I... Wait a minute, what are you doing?
Building a soapbox derby racer.
Oh, that's a hobby.
Hey, so it is.
Oh my God, I don't know jack about my boy. I'm a bad father.
You're also fat.
I'm also fat.
It's a nice act break.
Yeah, so great. He's so defeated he even agrees he's also fat with Selma.
Yeah, he's so willing in his misery to just go along with it.
I always thought that's Milhouse he's talking about there with the
Little
vague
wiener kid?
description. Yeah. Little
wiener
wiener
kid,
kid.
yeah,
His hands in
totally.
his pockets. And also that Homer's hero is Steve McQueen. That's a great gag there. But I mean, some dads are more perceptive than us. I don't think my dad could have told you what my hobbies were, other than that he thought they were a waste of money, pretty much.
I guess they would just say Nintendo.
Sure, that's easy.
That's a hobby, right?
But my anime tape collection he thought was stupid. As same with the comic book collection, also felt very stupid. But and also some Simpsons history here. They love that clip of Homer from Bo. Oh, geez, but they cut it short on like Bo.
It sounds like a keyboard sample or something.
Yes, yeah.
But yeah, I guess to date, Dan, they've used it like 6 or 7 times.
Yes, yeah.
In this run up from the first episode.
And this is like the 50th episode, so they've used it quite a lot. Yeah. It premiered in the Christmas special. That's how old it is. Yeah.
I guess they thought it was going to be like once they found the perfect burp, they could just reuse it, but eventually they would have to say, no, do more does.
Yeah.
We don't have just a universal dough, or in this case, Bo.
Yeah. But I do love that Marge is just having nothing with Homer and his terrible parenting. I just like that. And also that I like too the great, this is such a great animated episode. Like the animation just is so good in this one by Jim Reardon and his team. Homer is like barely making eye contact with Marge. Like that's very realistic as well. Just like he's looking at the TV while talking to her the whole time.
Yeah. Have we talked about that the test is from like the Fatherhood Institute or
yes,
something
the
like
National
that?
Fatherhood Institute, the NFI, yeah.
This feels like
I mean, we're coming up on, actually seeing the Institute, but I just want to say that I love, number one, the gag that I feel like there were a lot of these, and I guess this is something that still remains, but it also felt accurate to the time. A lot of these, like, very fake, just, like, made-up institutes, to sell whatever thing it is, and then to have it be revealed to be actually this deeply caring, full-service, real institute later on is really funny.
Yeah, the concept reminds me of when later in the show Marge mentions the Fruit Punch Advisory Board.
Yes.
Exactly.
Except this place is legitimate, and they seem to be like very philanthropic, I guess. They might be a nonprofit.
Yeah. They're incredibly well funded, and you would think that a thing like this would be a front for like, the Church of Latter-day Saints or something, like one of those, pro-family groups you'd hear about. But yeah, Homer calls the NFI, and this is the second of the brief runner of hearing a song on the hold line that makes somebody cry through its reference. In this case, it's Harry Chapin's Cats in the Cradle, which as a kid didn't... honestly, lots of these things I was like, my first time hearing it, I didn't know who Henry Winkler was when I was 9. Didn't know who Mary Tyler Moore was. Didn't know Cats in the Cradle or Harry Chapin's catalog. It was all news to me. But I also love the guy on the other side when Homer says to this 5-question test that he got a 0. The guy's like, "Good Lord, a 0!" Just loses it. And he sends a wood-paneled station wagon for Homer, which I love that joke too.
Yeah.
So this is when we get a quick bit of Bart showing off to the other kids, and I do think this really captures how it feels as a little kid to become briefly super obsessed with something, like you see like yo-yo tricks on TV and you tell your mom like, "Mom, give me a yo-yo," and then after a month or so you realize like yo-yos aren't for me, like similar thing.
There's also around this time all of these ideas from the previous generation's childhood that would not be a part of mine. So when I was a little kid, I thought like, well, sure, at some point I'll be in a soapbox racer. I'll probably go to summer camp too, like every kid. Absolutely not.
Yeah.
Never happened. But it was a more common thing for these guys who grew up in the 60s and 70s.
Now, Dan, you didn't you didn't do a bunch of soapbox racing either as a child?
Sorry, I feel like I'm just listening now. But like I don't have as salient a point to make. So.
Why? I just love that that Bart is also so into Ronnie Beck, like he became a Ronnie Beck expert, and he's just throwing out like, well, well, Ronnie Beck says this, Ronnie Beck says that.
Ronnie Beck says steal from construction sites.
Yes, yeah.
And also, it makes me wonder, where is he getting his Ronnie Beck information? There is, I imagine this kind of Teen Beat style, but for soapbox racer magazine that he picked up down at the 7-Eleven or something. I don't know, for all his Ronnie Beck interviews.
Red One interview, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's 1992. He's not following the TikTok, the Ronnie Beck TikTok.
The specific names in episodes is usually somebody doing a reference, and Levine and Isaacs were especially guilty of this. Like in the previous one, the Dancing Homer episode, which has so many very specific names for baseball players.
Levine is in it playing the announcer too.
Yeah, they're just saying and this announcer's name is this guy, this guy. So Isaacs is not on the commentary, but Levine points out Ronnie Beck's just a friend of David Isaacs. That's who it is. It's just shout out to friends. As we found out from other interviews with Levine, he didn't get, these guys are Cheers writers who are kind of taking a pay cut to write on The Simpsons, but as a gift to them that they can just name whatever friend they want in the show and just make it up over and over again.
Wow, what an amazing perk.
And so, I also like that Martin is just there to scope out the competition. He's in between things, and he's got a wind tunnel rented as well to test it out. And this is when Homer is taken away, which I love. Bart doesn't care. He's just maybe it's for the best.
Well, Homer was just institutionalized.
Casual.
Yeah.
Oh, that's true. Yeah. This is the second time Homer's been institutionalized in 3 months in the show.
If you're watching on Disney Plus, you won't know that.
Oh, that's true. That's the lost episode because it's the Michael Jackson episode, Dan. In case you don't know,
coming back to that guy.
Yeah.
Another guy's coming up soon.
Oh yes. Well, all right. Let's talk about it.
So Bill Cosby's Fatherhood. So published in 1986. Actually written by humorist Ralph Schoenstein, who also wrote the 1987 Cosby book Time Flies. It was so popular, it later inspired the Paul Reiser books Couplehood, Babyhood, and Familyhood, and I'm guessing it also inspired the movie Parenthood. I think the blank hood device inspired everything because the book was so popular.
Man, it was...
Learning, look, it's no surprise that there was a ghostwriter, but, just hearing that fact outright makes me wonder if there is any way that writer can or has looked into what if we just reissue Parenthood under my name, do whatever tweaking I need to do to take as much Cosby out as I can, if that's even possible, where he's look, the book never had anything to do with that, man. Can we agree that the book was great? You want to buy the book under my name?
Maybe his estate can do that because he passed away in 2006, so he didn't live to see the downfall of Cosby.
Man, why couldn't Cosby have died in 2006 instead? Man, No, I mean, these are not funny things to say, but yes, if you look up a timeline of, up a timeline of Bill Cosby's accusations, he was doing very horrible things at the time this episode aired.
Too busy to write a book.
Yeah. Oh God. Yeah.
It's more like Monsterhood, am I right, everyone?
But
come on.
As far as in the time, Dan, like you said, these jokes feel different now. In the time, I like that it's kind of a sideways joke at his expense by Homer when he's handed the book. He's like, if he's as smart as he is funny, I'm sold. Just these very light, loving tributes to him that really just come off as oh, this is so bland. It must be an insult that you're saying this.
I just wonder what a new viewer thinks about this character handing Homer a book by Bill Cosby about how to be a good man.
Yes.
What do you think of? How do you process that without knowing this history?
Now, I looked up the Cosby episode that aired against this one too, and it's also an episode about his character. Huxtable is teaching.
Very strange.
Huxtable is teaching a class on how to be a man and be etiquette classes for men, which I think was just normally his usual. His whole thing back then was, anyway. All right, but. So yes, Homer takes a tour of the Fatherhood Institute where he makes a new friend.
For starters, Mr. Simpson, why don't you take this complimentary copy of Fatherhood by Bill Cosby?
Oh, if he's as smart as he is funny, I'm sold.
Mr. Simpson, if you want to be a good father, you have to spend time with your son.
Well, that's easy for you to say, you preachy, egg-headed institute guy. How much do you see your son?
Why don't you ask him yourself? Homer, meet Dave Jr.
Oh?
How's your research coming, son?
I think we're near a breakthrough.
Good work.
Thanks, Dad.
Oh, how I envy you.
Homer, that easy back and forth that you just witnessed didn't happen overnight. It took years of effort.
I've never been afraid of a little hard work.
Oh, that's the spirit, Mr. Simpson. Now, step one is to find an activity the two of you can share. Does the boy have any interests?
What boy?
Your son. Find something he likes to do and share in it.
Well, he is building a soapbox derby racer.
Oh, that would be perfect.
Dear God, not again!
Harry Shearer is screaming all throughout this episode.
Not again. That's the best part. This is the impossible thing of this very small tank of water has a shark in it, and more than once it has eaten the child inside it with the I love that so much. And also you see in the next scene when Homer approaches Bart, he is wearing a Cosby style sweater. It's like he's also decided to wear an extra sweater to be more friendly.
Not colorful enough, but I appreciate the effort.
And also I like that Homer, the second Bart says, why don't you just go back to the couch and watch TV? Okay. And he walks away. He's like, no, I'm going to do this. Speaking of other callbacks to Itchy and Scratchy and Marge, that's where Homer builds the spice rack. Homer, very poorly. This is where Homer says, I'm good at building stuff. Remember the spice rack? It's shitty as it looked last time. The bird feeder, dead bird. And he's like, the Gymboree, which nearly kills Maggie. And
what was that? Who cares?
Yeah, but yes, you know what, Dan? We have a jingle for just this type of thing. A bird is killed in this episode, or at the very least, bird's dead, right?
It was killed before the events of this episode.
And that means it's time to play the bird violence jingle.
Everybody hates birds, right?
It happens more than you think on The Simpsons. Yeah. That's why we have a jingle for it.
I'm loving learning the hidden patterns that only the true experts get to see.
But this is when Homer decides to use, he actually quotes the book directly. Cosby's first law of intergenerational perversity. That's the real thing in the book. It sounds crazy to say out loud as in today's logic, but yes, he's able to convince Bart to help him in our next clip.
What was that? Who cares? Son, please let me help you.
Come on, Dad. It'd be weird.
Oh, this isn't working at all. It's hopeless. Wait a second. Cosby's first law of intergenerational perversity. No matter what you tell your child to do, he will always do the opposite. Huh? Don't you get it? You gotta use reverse psychology. Oh, that sounds too complicated. Okay, don't use reverse psychology. All right, I will. Son, I don't think you should let me help you.
Oh, come on, Dad. If you really want to help, you can clean these paintbrushes.
Thank you, Bill Cosby. You saved The Simpsons.
And again, that's a funny line to say when they are running against Bill Cosby at the time, and he is hurting damaging their ratings very hard at the moment.
And Bart gives Homer the one job that has no effect on the building of the
true. Yeah,
soapbox racer.
I never considered that. Washing the paintbrushes, it's already done its job. That's good.
I'm very curious to see. Well, I'm not very curious. Look, it's all fiction, guys. I don't need to know. I don't need to know for sure. But I'm curious to see Bart's version of this racer. Would it have been better than what we see? Is Homer to blame for the sorry state of the racer, or would Bart have kept Homer from doing the whatever bad things? This is basically the racer he would have made on his own, because he seems pretty competent early on with the tools, even if he is staring right into the welder flame.
No, I think Bart would have made a better racer.
Yeah, maybe not a winner, but definitely this. I mean, because what Homer builds through the next montage is incredibly boxy, not sleek, not a thing that will that also has stroller wheels on it.
All the wheels are different.
Yes, yeah.
I think there's one stroller wheel.
Everything is bad about it.
And I have never heard this song outside of this episode, but the Boomer Writers love cheesy 70s ballads. This is one of them. It's called Watching Scotty Grow from Bobby Goldsboro's 1970 album, We Gotta Start Lovin'.
One of the cheesiest songs, and yeah, I've never heard it outside of I've heard Cats in the Cradle and other songs in this episode elsewhere, but I've never heard Watching Scotty Grow other than in this episode or looking up the original song on YouTube to hear it just to be sure, like, oh, is this a cover or is this the real thing? And I'm pretty sure it's a real thing, though it could be Kip Lennon singing it, but I think it's the real thing.
I think it's the real thing,
Yeah. My favorite in the bit is Homer with his giant cigar in his mouth and then putting it down next to like open gas cans and the welding torch. Like, that's great. What a terrible picture it is.
That's the sort of like joke that I probably loved as a kid, and now that I'm a middle-aged man, it genuinely makes me cringe. Like, I've seen these episodes so many times too. I know that that Homer Simpson does not suddenly die in a gas explosion, but you know, I don't know. I have a soft heart now.
When you're a little kid, you don't think about, like, you know, honestly, now as an adult, roughly Homer's age, I think like, man, my knees would hurt sitting down that long.
Yeah.
But the story is refocused back in bed, as Al Jean was told to do many a time.
I feel like James L. Brooks was helicoptered in to write this one line from Homer. It feels like so him.
Oh, yes. Yeah. He reminds me of me before the weight of the world crushed my spirit. Yeah. Though, you know what? I like that. That's a good Homer line. I like that. But yes, it's not as, I mean, I guess if it's not watching TV, then it must be a rewriting by Brooks, not Gene and Reese. Yeah. And they'll reuse this footage in a later episode. I forget which one. When we get to it, I'll note it. But, you know, with all this Derby talk, this is, they bring it up on the commentary. Bob, you did it, really looked into the history, the scandal that rocked the world of the soapbox derby. So the story was the day the derby almost died, the magnet car, because it was in 1973, a racer named Jimmy Gronin won with like record times in soapbox derby racing, and people couldn't believe it. And it was because his uncle, who was an engineer, built a car with a magnet in the front. And the way the soapbox derby works, as you see in this episode, you're on an incline. Then a thing is holding you up. A metal block is holding you up. The metal block goes down and you roll down. If you have a magnet in the front, but it's an electromagnet, it has to be turned on and off. And when you turn it on and then off on the block, it will pull you and give you way more speed and an extra launch, basically. And the kid won, and then soon after it got discovered that he cheated and he was stripped of the title. And it almost killed the Derby that day. And if you happen to find yourself in Akron, Ohio...
leave immediately. I say this is a former Ohioan. Get out.
But if you're in Akron, Ohio, stop by the All-American Soapbox Derby Hall of Fame and Museum at Derby Downs, because you can see the very magnet car itself is saved there for posterity.
I have a hot take on this soapbox derby scandal, which is this kid totally deserves the crown. Like, I feel like this is, does it obey the letter of the law? Probably not, but it shows the spirit of the soapbox derby, which is to build a car that will race the fastest, and to come up with such an ingenious scheme. I don't know.
Yeah.
I think that this is great. It's innovative, is what it is.
They should outlaw it for all future ones, but let little Jimmy have this win this time.
He was basically inventing the boost you get in Mario Kart when you hit the ignition at the right time.
Oh yeah.
So I appreciate that innovation. But I'm with Dan. Yeah, give him a badge.
Yeah, but you know, I don't know what happened to that kid afterward. Did he go on with his life, or did the shame follow him through the rest of his life? I wonder.
He was forced to stay in Akron. A home of Devo, who left.
Oh yeah, like all good Ohioans.
Yeah.
Leave no. We've had many great Ohioan guests who are.
I'm an Ohioan, and it burns me up every day.
but yes, as the race is about to start, this is another bit where there was the hard cut, because a couple of these lines by Nelson and the officiant cut to make time for black or white.
Your father's not supposed to help build your racer, but you should at least consult him about it. No! You're in Heat 4. Whoa, where's your helmet, son?
Helmets are for wusses, sir.
No, I don't think I can let you go without a safety helmet.
This is my son, and if he doesn't want to wear one, you can't make him.
Okay, fine. I want to get out of here sometime today.
Attention, everyone! I say to those who question the value of the space program, behold! Ay, caramba!
Hey, you're not supposed to smoke in the pit area.
Fine. Hey, Simpson, where's your loser mobile?
Loser mobile. Wait a minute.
It's over there, Nelson.
Whoa, talk about your pieces of crap.
You know, Bart, I don't care who wins, as long as one of us beats that guy. Same here.
Careful, boys. It took me months to steal that bumper.
Help! Help! What was that?
You didn't hear nothing.
Are you nervous, son?
Don't worry, Dad. As three-time soapbox derby champion Ronnie Beck says, gravity is my co-pilot.
You know, Bart the Murderer was a while ago, but they're still sneaking in Goodfellas references.
Oh, yeah,
That's Billy Batts in there.
You're right.
I had forgotten Nelson's two, flunkies that he had before he started hanging out with Dolphin Kearney. I think you see them in the background of things later on, but, they kind of disappeared.
Yeah.
But in these early things, he had, this whole... I don't know, Bugs Beanie crew. That
They're kind of being phased. I think they're kind of phased out by season 4.
This might be one of their last lines.
Yeah.
Close to it. Yeah. I love, though, that they offer him a switchblade. And he's like, thanks. But then still bashes their heads together. Though that switchblade, not in my VHS cut either. And same with the gravity is my co-pilot, which that's a funny line. But, man, now I'm just shocked at seeing Nelson smoking. Just drawing a child smoking and putting out the cigarette on his tongue. I don't think they could do that one today.
No.
I love that line by Martin that he says, for those who question the value of the space program, behold, because it shows he's really come at this with a political idea. He's like, hey, you know what? This is to finally prove to people that NASA deserves to exist. Everybody thinks it's a waste of money at this point. No way. It needs to keep existing.
Well, but also it's such a, it's such a silly corruption of an actual notion, all these innovations that we've gotten through the space program, whether they be Velcro or something much more complex. But the fact that Nelson's making that argument with something so frivolous as a soapbox racer that no one would care about, that's great.
Yeah, that he's and it's one that is honestly too good and will nearly kill him soon, but yeah, this whole race is fun. Bart's car actually does kind of all right at first. Yeah. It's just when it gets down, but it's that Martin was not prepared for how high it was, and he instantly just flies down it. And man, Russi Taylor, the late Russi Taylor, her screaming as Martin here is all so good.
And I'll tell you what, I was alive at the time, obviously, and that "deploy, damn you!" that line, it rocked the pages of Simpsons Illustrated. There was maybe a 2-issue dialogue in the letter section. Some people were upset that Martin says "damn" because I remember, and I couldn't find it. It was the one issue that was not scanned and put on archive.org. But I remember someone saying I don't like hearing the voice of Baby Gonzo saying "damn."
Wow.
So
man.
people they were making it a political issue in 1992.
Crazy.
We had nothing better to do.
It is Minnie Mouse saying "damn." Yeah, it's true.
But yeah, they're making the kids swear a lot more in these early seasons.
I mean, Martin for this episode becomes basically just a weathered racing vet. That's what he is. This. It's also we should have said it earlier, but the title is a parody of Days of Thunder, which is a racing movie. But they said this was more. Levine says on the commentary he's pulling more from Death Race 2000 instead in this.
Yeah, this is where I was actually going to do some research and just fell down on the job. I was going to read a synopsis of Days of Thunder to see if it was more than just a clever title, but I forgot.
It is about racing. But it wasn't a successful Tom Cruise movie. Not all that much. The only thing I've never seen it. I just remember seeing clips of it with the weird line of "Rubbin' is racing." That was the line from it, which is you don't. With the spirit of that means. You're not trying to crash the car. That would be wrong if you're trying to intentionally make another guy crash. But if you rub into his car, that causes them to lose, some traction. And I believe it's Robert Duvall who says to him, hey, kid, rubbing is racing. Death Race 2000, I know that a little better. David Carradine running over people.
I guess I didn't realize Days of Thunder was a Tony Scott film.
Oh, yeah. It's I didn't know they was supposed. So man, it kind of is a failure. Then it was the Top Gun, reteaming. It's Tony Scott and Tom Cruise back together.
Directed by Tony Scott, written by the guy who wrote Chinatown.
Oh, what?
Figure that out.
That's crazy.
It is.
Wow,
it's true.
That's crazy. Man, Martin's car crashes. He's lit on fire. Bart's car falls apart, and he's laughed at. And Nelson is a strong second place. Nelson whips him as part of the Ben-Hur style, the first Ben-Hur joke of the episode. So we then go to the hospital. Martin is being taken care of. Hibbert shows up wearing the exact sweater that Cosby is wearing on the cover of Fatherhood in the episode.
In case you didn't get it.
Yeah, in case you didn't understand that. And I just love how Martin is like, he does become one of those like guys in a sports movie, like save it for some other person, but save your palliative cliches for the next poor sap, doctor.
I also just love how he like treats himself as like the shattered monster when he's literally just broken his arm, even though we've also seen him in flames.
Yeah.
Which for my money is as horrifying as anything in this episode. This small child running around on fire, and then the firemen come and shoot the water at the car. I mean, obviously also very funny.
At that point on the commentary, the
terrifying.
showrunner said, we were getting kind of mean.
Yes.
Because we were very tired.
Yes.
But yes, later in this scene, Martin does utter the titular line from the 2022 movie Drive My Car.
Oh, yes. Yeah.
That's a joke. I don't think they actually say, will you drive my car? In Drive My Car.
I guess they say it in
Henry has not seen
Japanese.
Drive My Car,
No.
everybody.
Ah, man, quit shaming me about
Sit through
it.
all 3 hours of that movie. A car is driven, and you'll enjoy it.
I've been meaning to watch it. I will.
That's the only movie from that year I saw.
I watched all 17 hours of the new season of Stranger Things. I
Yes.
didn't watch that. That was a really long season, but every episode was good. I enjoyed watching it. But when I got to that last episode of season 2 or season 4, I was like, 2 hours and 10 minutes? Really? Really?
No, I really enjoyed it as well, but I also, you have a different mindset when you commit yourself to watching a television show and watching a movie, and it felt like doing the movie commitment every time.
They were taking advantage of my binge-worthy way of thinking of like, well, no, this isn't a movie, it's a TV show. And then like, no, each one's a movie. Like,
What's with all these bed sores? Where am I?
I parsed it out over a series of weeks. I did not binge it all in one weekend.
If they make these episodes longer, people are going to die of blood clots during Stranger Things
and
season 5.
that's going to cost Netflix subscribers.
Yes.
They're already losing too many as it is. So yes, Bart is given the choice to drive the car or not. Otherwise, Nelson will win. And I just love Bart weighing it, and then he's like, "On the other hand, I'll do it." And he decides he must. And this is when Bart quits Team Simpson to some legitimate heartbreak on Homer's part.
I'll never race again. If you don't race, then Nelson will win. Well, even if I wanted to, I'm in no shape to do it. Unless... Bart, will you drive my car? Oh, I don't know if I should do that. My dad and I built our car together, and if I drove someone else's, it'd kill him. On the other hand, I'll do it.
Okay, Bart, we've got a lot of work to do on the car, so I'm going to pull you out of school for the next couple of weeks.
Dad, I don't know how to say this, but I don't want to drive your car. It's slow, it's ugly, it handles like a shopping cart.
Bart, the car has a few bugs in it, I admit that, but we're Team Simpson.
Dad, I love you, but you taught me to win.
When did I ever teach you that?
Well, I picked it up somewhere. And if I drive Martin's car, I can win. I'm sorry,
Oh,
but...
no, go ahead, leave me.
Dad.
Go on and win. No, go on and win without your dad. I'll just sit here, a little lightning, which the Simpsons built, and remember that for one brief shining moment, I had a son. Oh.
Kind of ruins the car there.
Yeah, it's
He's
destroyed.
setting Bart
Yeah.
back days.
I also love that he's going to take Bart out of school for 2 weeks, like just which may as well like cause Bart's already not doing great in school. He can't miss 2 weeks of school.
I love that this is one of the rare occasions where, like, Homer's emotional reaction is perfectly reasonable. like that. The core of it, is not unreasonable, but the way he handles it is so hilariously petty.
Yeah.
Like, you feel for him, but he cannot. It goes beyond bad parenting into, like, just, I don't know, like, childish, like, schoolyard kind of, like, no, it's fine. I don't
Go
it's
on
amazing.
and win without your dad. Go on and win without me.
I mean, they're kind of playing it like a breakup because when he sees
Yes.
Martin, he says, "Home wrecker."
Oh yes, yeah, that's it. Yeah, he's so mad at Martin. Like he almost beats Martin. Like he probably was about to strangle him. Which it's funny funny when it's your own kid, of course, but some stranger's kid, you can't just strangle that kid. So we come back from break. This is another big cut from the VHS version or original broadcast version. It just picks up when they're driving to the doctor's office. Lisa asking to go and Homer watching is not there, which I just love how Homer says, like, that's how you get your kicks, isn't it, Lisa? Like, he's just like so mad. But yes, Lisa wants to get a tetanus shot, which Homer will need to get one of those by the end of this season.
That's right. That's right.
When he steps on a nail in one of the most painful looking pictures in the entire series.
Great Foley on that.
Yes, yeah, fiddle-dee-dee. And then there's also a great joke that Bart driving the soapbox derby racer is actually faster than Homer's car and just outracing it.
This little side trip to the doctor is just sort of a bit of a baffling scene for me, for like an episode that you said had to be shorter because of the Michael Jackson video. This scene seems so completely added to pad the time. I don't know.
I think they were
I don't
also
think it adds anything to the emotional sort of like arc of the thing. It's such a weird side quest.
I think this is early enough that they're also being very literal about the writing, where it's like, well, why would Homer be at the doctor's office? Well, Lisa needs to go. Okay, now let's show him drive there. Now let's show him there.
Yes.
Like a year or two later, Act 3 would start with him there with Lisa. Not necessarily needing these two scenes to precede it.
And also in the scene when Homer says, "You homewrecker," cut from the broadcast version was Martin's attempt to like, Mr. Simpson. Like, it just is him going, run, and he runs off, which Hibbert is very relaxed about an adult man threatening an injured child. He's just like, he certainly gave him the heebie-jeebies.
I love it.
Maybe, Dan, you're right. This could just go straight to the next episode, but I do or the next scene of Homer on the couch. But I think they have it there so you can see Homer knows who Martin is, so he'll pass the test later. Like, that's my only guess on it. But
no, you're right. If so, that feels almost like it was thrown in at the end to fix that problem. But who knows?
But Homer is pouting, despite what his protests say. And so in our next clip, this is when everybody gives up on Homer.
Dad, aren't you coming?
No.
Now, don't pout.
I'm not pouting. You are.
Dad, you gotta come. I just got your hat out of the fridge.
Sorry.
Don't you at least have something to say to Bart?
No. Can't think of a thing.
Homer, I've always said you were a good father. I've always defended you when people put you down. That's for sure. She ain't lying, but I guess I was wrong. You are a bad father.
Leave me alone.
It's pretty mean.
Yeah. But because of this episode, I did research on the foam dome.
Oh.
All I have to tell you is it was patented under the much less interesting name Beer Helmet.
Beer Helmet? Oh, it's so boring.
Yeah. Simpsons invented foam dome, which is much better.
Much better. Man.
Yeah, throw a comedy writer at your product. See what they come up with.
We just did a King of the Hill episode that also featured the foam dome for a plot point as well. This is the first time I caught it that, like, the joke is that you should just take the beer out of the fridge and put it in the hat, but that entire hat is in the fridge.
Oh, yeah. Hey, maybe it's going to be a hot Saturday.
Sure, yes, yeah.
Well, I got to admit, I watched this morning on my way to work. I was commuting and watching The Simpsons. And so I saw this, recently, and then still listening to it right now, I forgot for a moment that it was a foam dome and was just imagining that Homer, for a second, had put his hat in the fridge because that's a thing that he always does before he goes out to have a cool hat. And I found both ideas equally funny. So I like that this combines, like you pointing out, it doesn't have to be the whole hat. That's so great.
And Marge it's funny too that Marge is used to Homer strangling Bart, but this passive-aggressive cruelty to Bart, that's a bridge too far for her. It's like, you know what? No, you are a bad father. Yes, Homer, then we cut to him watching TV, drinking out of the foam dome. And I love that they frame the boxcar race as from the carefree days of the Great Depression, and that the soapbox derby is racing down the steep decline of the stock market. Like, that's a great visual.
And these two announcers, they got sick of them pretty quickly, but they debuted in Dead Putting Society. I think there's just one of them now in this episode. Then they were in Bart the Daredevil as the wrestling commentators. So they got over the idea of, like, wouldn't it be funny if these, like, stuffy British guys were hosting a kind of like a lowbrow event? This is the last time I think they did this.
I think you're right. Yeah. This guy, you know, I pretty much from then on, it would either be, I think, Bill and Marty or Kent Brockman as host of local events, or maybe Arnie Pye, but really it's like Bill and Marty mostly host these things, which they are funnier than the British guy. He does say Junior Al Unser Jr., which he was a big name race car driver at the time. To let you know what's going on with that guy now, he has his own section called Personal Issues on a wiki page. So I'll just leave it at that. Homer sadly drinks out of his foam dome, noticing the cans are empty, and so he heads back to the fridge. There's a fake Monopoly community chess card on the fridge, which is distracting in HD, but I never really read it as I couldn't tell what it was until the HD airings. But this is when Homer realizes he can pass the test in our next clip.
Name your son's hobbies. Building a soapbox racer. Name one of your child's friends. Martin! Martin! I'll curse that name till the day I die! Huh? Who is your son's hero? 3-time soapbox derby champion Ronnie Beck! Oh, I'm one question away from being a perfect father. Name another dad you talk to about parenting. Oh.
Hey ho, Simpson!
Shut up, Flanders! 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 When should a boy start dating?
Well, sir, there are 2 schools of thought on the subject.
Great, thanks! I talked to Flanders about parenting! I'm a perfect father! Hold on, son! I'm a-coming!
Yeah, I mean, so Homer said "Shut up, Flanders" in Call of the Simpsons season 1, but I think this cements "Shut up, Flanders" as the first thing he says to him whenever he talks.
Yeah.
So I think this is when it's set in stone. Like, if Flanders is there and he says something, "Shut up, Flanders" is the first thing Homer will say.
I love the staging of Flanders arriving in the window. He's just like, talk to him, and then he's right there in the window. It's framed so perfectly.
I have a question. So is the implication that Marge put this test on the fridge? Because otherwise I'm like, why is Homer's failed fatherhood test clipped to the fridge?
It must be to shame him, yes. Yeah, Marge put it there to remember, like, this was your 0, Homer. Get better at
Or to
this.
remind Homer, like, hey, learn these things.
Yes, yeah.
Yeah, I wondered whether this was her final push, that like her plan actually worked, that she left this for him. I don't know.
If you put it where the beer is, Homer's going to notice it. That's what I think she realized.
Yeah.
But and director Jim Reardon points out a thing I never noticed in previous watchings to the commentary, which is Homer's car shifts from reverse to drive with his hands doing nothing. Like he doesn't shift, it just like instantly goes in it, which makes the scene funnier to me, really. And then comes a mean joke at Mary Tyler Moore's expense here, which is Barney has already, this is a return of the joke of Barney being maced, like, because when at War of the Simpsons, he gets maced by Selma at it. When he's trying to ask her out there, he says, like, a new kind of mace? Really painful.
I think I mean, if you follow the limited continuity at this point, like, he went on a date with Selma, but every time they're together, he always hits on Patty or talks to Patty.
Right, yeah.
So, yeah. Patty maced him in the War of the Simpsons, right?
Yeah. And so this is the second one where he says, like, he thinks she's Mary Tyler Moore, and once he is horribly maced, that's when he says, "Oh, so it really is you," like that again to make it very, very mean towards Mary Tyler Moore.
It's also like one of the first times they're letting Moe leave the bar.
Yes,
so he's out hanging out with his best pal Barney.
Him and Barney would hung out a bit, but it's better when Moe is friendless, I think, though. But it's actually kind of funny, you know. Moe also is being out of character in that when Barney is maced, he actually kind of comforts Barney. He's like tapping on the shoulder, like, "Oh man, I'm sorry, buddy." Bart is getting ready for the race, and, well, he's losing some confidence.
Bart, if she breaks up on you, steer away from the grandstands, or else you might kill hundreds of innocent spectators. Bart, what did I just tell you?
Kill spectators.
What is the matter with you?
It's my dad, lying there on the couch, drinking a beer, staring at the TV. I've never seen him like that.
Forget about your father! You're driving for me now!
Do it for your old man, boy.
Simpson, prepare to die.
Let's rock.
Ladies and gentlemen, to drop the green flag, our beloved mayor,
Diamond Joe Quimby.
To everyone participating today, I salute your vigor. Check out the wreck on the blonde in the fourth row.
So is that the first joke about his philandering ways?
I think it is, because
Yeah.
definitely in the other ones he would joke about, like, nobody leaves Diamond Joe Quimby holding the bag, or get that punk's name. Nobody talks that way to Diamond Joe Quimby. Neither of those involve hitting on a woman. So yes, this is when they hit on, like, you know what, he should just be a cheat.
Yeah,
like, that's his thing.
What other Kennedy things can we do with him?
Yes, yeah.
And also that "do it for your old man, boy." That shot is from The Natural.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to watch The Natural when we cover Homer at the Bat because they
Yeah.
reference it so much, and I assume after 2 hours I'll say yes. He ran around the bases in slow motion and he shattered the lights, and that's everything they're taking from this movie and the music.
And the music, yeah. You know, I've never seen it either. I've seen clips and stuff. It's on Fubo or Tubi,
Fubo?
one of those. Look, all those made-up name things that show you a
Fubar.
movie with commercials. Yeah.
Well, it's good to know that that's a reference, because I did notice that shot. Like, it's a shot that stands out as different. Like, the perspective on it is very sort of from below and distorted.
The Natural is such a forgotten movie. Like, I feel like nobody. I never heard my parents reference it. Like, it's just, you know. I guess if somebody was doing like a listicle of like top 10 best baseball movies, it probably would be on there. But like, I heard way more about like Bull Durham growing up than say The Natural
Or
you know?
Major League.
Or even The Babe. Like, yeah, I'd well,
Oh,
actually,
2.5 hours.
Yeah,
maybe.
The Natural. Yes,
yeah, maybe
yeah.
I'll watch it. I just looked up the running time.
It's what happens when Robert Redford gets final cut on stuff, man. It's as long as he wants it to be. Well, also, I do like the many slaps and Bart saying that he's never seen his father like this, describing how Homer is at all times. But yes, apparently I think the "Let's Ride" might be something Tom Cruise says in Days of Thunder. I believe.
Was it Let's Rock or Let's Ride?
I heard
Let's
Let's
Rock.
Rock. Yeah, Let's Rock. But yes, then
more smoking from Nelson.
Yeah, that's great too. And then as the race begins, they do another Ben-Hur reference, which I love that the commentators literally call it out, like, this is just like Ben-Hur, like as he's running his cart wheels into his. So yes, they have a fun race back and forth, but then Bart wins in the end, and this is the rare time where one of the Simpsons wins something.
This is a fun episode, but I was kind of disappointed by the lack of like a creative resolution to the soapbox derby race. I mean, there's an emotional payoff because Homer is there, but like, there's no reason that Bart won.
Well, hey, they make that into a good joke with Martin's line late at the end of the episode.
Yes, that's right. Actually, yeah, I guess Martin does underline the kind of disappointing payoff. So, congrats.
Technically, Bart won in that there needed to be a racer in it, and the wheel must work, and so Bart must keep the wheel steady, but otherwise the driver doesn't matter. It's just you're inside a log that falls down, basically, and then which one moves the fastest.
If the billion-dollar movie Top Gun Maverick has taught us anything, it's the man behind the stick.
Oh, that's true. Yes,
thing.
yeah.
What are they saying? I don't know.
Yeah.
So the pilot is not ballast in Top Gun Maverick.
Not in Top Gun, no, yeah. Which, though, you know, at the start of that movie, he tells Ed Harris, Maverick's telling Ed Harris, like, hey, you can't just invest in drones. You need the pilots to do this. And then when they are describing the suicide mission in the movie, which, by the way, is a war crime against Iran in the movie, is what they're doing. But when they describe the mission, the whole time I'm thinking, like, boy, if they just had a drone that could just, like, do a crash into it, that would save a whole lot more trouble and wouldn't risk like 12 people's lives in it. You know, I think Ed Harris is right about the drones.
No, look, everyone seems to be pretty positive on Top Gun Maverick, and as a technical feat, it's certainly very thrilling, but I was actually kind of grossed out by all the things it was trying to sell, you know, among them the nostalgic idea, like that, you know, it's got to be a man behind the thing, like nostalgia for Top Gun, a movie that wasn't good the first time around, like this like bullshit like military superiority that they're trying to sell and like nostalgia for like glory days of America as fans of Top Gun might see it. I don't. This is more ranty than I intended, but I was distressed by that movie in a lot of ways, honestly.
Well, also the movie's about how Tom Cruise isn't old and how he's as good and even better than any young movie star right now. That he's way cooler.
It's also selling Tom Cruise, who I adore the Mission Impossible movies, but I don't need to be like sold the idea that you're some sort of like super robot man, Tom Cruise. We already think that about you.
Though I will, the technical aspect of it, though, I've been feeling it more and more because I watched that new Thor movie, which was a fine enough time. It's a nice new episode of the Marvel TV show. It's fine. But the special effects are like the green screeniest, emptiest stuff I ever seen. And so I was just thinking the whole time, like, boy, remember in Top Gun Maverick where like you can actually see the sun move on them and it's clearly filmed outdoors and in a real place? Like, yeah.
Yeah. It sounds like I liked the Thor movie even a little bit better than you, and you seem to like it better than most of the internet does. But the one problem that I had with it, not the one problem, but like the only major problem I had with it, because I basically liked it a lot, was that what you're talking about, there would be like darks and lights on the screen, and yet my overwhelming like impression was of just like the same mid-tone. And I don't know what they're doing digitally, like what the technical reasons for that are, but it looked so flat to me no matter what was happening.
Yeah.
Well, I'm being quiet. I didn't see Top Gun Maverick, but I am a graduate of the Top Pod program, and I've been told I can never die. So try and stop me.
You have a need for speed. The speed
Exactly.
of talking. Yeah, I have. So Bart wins. There's some fun photo reveals. Bart doesn't like being kissed by the bathing beauty, and then we see that same chesty lass is being talked up to by Quimby in the next photograph.
It's a thing they did on the Tracy Ullman show, right? The snapshots showing different like moments of a scene.
Yeah, it goes back to the family photo short from the first season, I think the second season of Ullman stuff. But yeah, one of the most classic Simpson shorts. And then the announcer references Lucky Lindy being taken off Le Bourget Field, which that is a reference to 1927 when Charles Lindbergh lands at the Le Bourget airfield outside of Paris, completing the first non-stop transatlantic flight and becoming an instant celebrity.
Oh, what do you do after that?
Let's not talk about that. His child was lost, and then he thought Hitler had some good ideas.
He flew Bobo part of the way to Mr. Burns to the ice bag factory.
Oh, you know what? He's the one who gave it to Hitler. I bet. Yeah.
Put some grease in your garter, Lindy.
but yeah. So the Simpsons get to win and celebrate. That's when he also meets up with Ronnie Beck, which great reveal of showing the shot of all the people, and then Ronnie Beck is this tiny little person behind them, even smaller than Bart. And this is when we have a happy father and son ending.
Congratulations, Bart. Seeing you out there brought back a lot of memories. Thanks, Mr. Beck. I was alone out there, but someone was riding with me in spirit. This is for you, Dad.
No, son, you earned it.
I might remind you both I did design that racer. The driver is essentially ballast.
The better man won, Simpson. You can really drive.
Thanks, Nelson. Put her there. Ha 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 ha! Loser! Nya 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 nya!
Bart, you know there is such a thing as being a bad winner.
Mom, I never won before. I may never win again. Nya 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 nya!
That's my boy! Nya 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 nya!
Nya 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 nya! Nya 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 nya!
Did you ever know that you're my hero? 'Cause you are the wind beneath my wings.
I love the little scene they had at the end. I always forget about it. It's
Yes.
funny, but it's actually touching. Like, I'm happy that Dave and Dave Jr. They solved this mission. They're like this
They
NASA mission
reconnected
control
more.
somehow watching Bart and Homer.
Yes, yeah. It's beautiful that they hug at the same time. Bart and Homer hug again.
Yeah.
and that we hear "Wind Beneath My Wings" from Beaches, though it's a cover of it, not the Streisand version.
Although Bette Midler will be on the show. I guess when you sign up for this National Fatherhood Institute program, you also consent to being surveilled.
Oh, you must have signed a thing for that, yeah.
Now, Homer, place these cameras in your home.
I mean, too, it's funny. They use that, and then in a matter of months, the next May, Bette Midler will sing that to Johnny Carson at the final Carson show, which will then be parodied a year later on The Simpsons when she sings it to Krusty the Clown.
Before people complain, was that the penultimate Carson show or the final one?
I think it was the final.
Okay.
I think it was.
We'll cover that in season 4.
Yes, yeah. But yes, as a kid, I did not know what the word ballast means, but literally means anybody could sit there in it. It doesn't. That's what ballast means in a scientific sense. But I feel like that was them at the very end of the episode. They're like, oh, this is turning into just a regular sitcom where everybody's happy. We need to undercut it somehow, and it's that Bart teaches kids the bad lesson of like, no, rub it in the other guy's face.
Yeah.
Don't take the high road. Let him know, like, fuck you, loser. Like, that's what you got to say. But,
it's true in racing and in the podcasting world.
Yeah, stunt on the people who fell behind you. That's how it is in the podcast world. Rubbing is podcasts also. That's another rule of podcasting. But just know that you hear that. I can still feel my 9-year-old self hearing that song, Beaches, the song for Beaches, and seeing the hugs, and then it goes to the credits, and Bart's over the credits saying, and now stick around, kids, the Michael Jackson world premiere music video coming up next. And I'm like, oh, well, I better just stick around for this. I got to go see this.
The TV gave me a command.
Yeah, Bart, my best friend Bart told me to stick around.
And plus Drexel's Class.
And Drexel's Class coming up right after that. Yeah, I think
it's on the bubble, waiting for season 2.
I do think I didn't watch that so much, and my parents were watching Cheers by that point. We weren't a Cosby house so much. I could control it enough for Simpsons, but after Simpsons, it was time to tune into, well, I guess it wasn't called must-see TV yet, but Thursday night on NBC. Yeah. I guess in general, this episode is full of like some great animation and some classic things playing on TV. But you're right, Bob. I think the emotional through line of this about Homer's a bad father and then he becomes not a bad father anymore. Pretty standard stuff, like more of a season 2 one. And as Gene points out on the commentary, 3 in a row they did airing Homer the bad dad or a bad father, because it was the Krusty bad father episode, Homer's being a bad father in Lisa's Pony, Homer being a bad father to Bart in this one. And I feel like they only played this one right after Lisa's Pony because they demanded a Bart-centric episode for the Michael Jackson one. I think that's why.
Yeah, and soon he'll be a bad father again in Lisa the Greek.
Yep.
Yeah, like I feel that this episode is very funny, but season 3 has been moving so fast in terms of jokes and storytelling that maybe it's because it's written by 2 like dyed-in-the-wool sitcom guys that it feels a little slower, a little more traditional. But there's some things in it like the infomercial parody, the McBain parody, and some other things like the National Fatherhood Institute that make it rise above the soapbox story. But this is like one of the lackluster season 3 ones in my opinion, but still very funny. Any final thoughts on this one, Dan?
No, although you did remind me, I just wanted to say about the seasons. Season 3 probably not like the funniest season. Like they do get funnier in the next couple or few, but I don't know if this is a controversial opinion or not. I don't know. I don't know where the state of Simpsons fans are on seasons these days, but I feel like season 3 for me might balance the very funny comedy with a genuine warmth of emotion best for me.
I think you're dead on about that because future showrunners Bill Oakley and Josh Weinstein, they ran seasons 7 and 8. They patterned it after season 3 because they thought that was the best season of the show.
Yeah. They've Bill Oakley has said like it is. He said it on our own interview with him too. Listen to it back in the archives. But yeah, he says that season 3 of The Simpsons is the best season of any TV show ever in his opinion. And he wanted to pattern it on that. I think me and Bob have been on the record that like 5 or 6 is usually our favorite, but 3 is great. But yeah, I think if you want the wackier stuff from Simpsons, it doesn't get as wacky, though by the end of the season they're getting pretty wacky.
Yeah.
I mean, the Spinal Tap episode where their bus explodes, that's pretty wacky. Yeah.
I think so.
I love Lisa's like probably a top 5 episode for me. So, and that's that's here in the season, and that has that, very funny and warm thing I was talking about.
You know what, Dan, I forgot to say, we got so sidetracked with Michael Jackson stuff. Like, yeah, you probably, were a pretty, I mean, what is season 3 your favorite season, or do you think about that?
For a while I said that. I do think that I get hazy between 4 and 5, like what's in which, but like I do think that it hits its peak more around that zone. But in terms of just like hilarity, at least. But I just feel very warmly towards 3.
Us too.
Yeah. Thank you so much for being on the show, Dan. Please let us know where we can find you online, more about the Flophouse, and whatever else you happen to be up to right now.
Well, you can, I don't know, if you're still sticking around Twitter for some reason, I'm at Dan K. McCoy. You'll probably read it as at Dank McCoy. That's fine. It's going to happen. And you can find the podcast, The Flophouse, wherever fine podcasts are found. But we also have our own dedicated website called flophousepodcast.com. It's not called that. That's the address. It's our website for a podcast where I'm maybe the sleepiest sounding member. If you're scared of my energy level, we have a very energetic guy and a cool guy, and me talk about bad movies. Our most recent episode was on the remake of Firestarter, which was a boring movie, a movie that I texted everyone I knew to angrily complain about how boring the movie I had to watch was.
I really enjoyed, of your recent ones, I really enjoyed the Venom Let There Be Carnage one, because I am also a hardcore comic fanboy, and so you guys joke about it with Elliot of saying like, you put a coin in him, he's getting started, but like when he's describing what happens with all of the new gods and their history in another recent episode, I was like, I know all this, finally somebody's talking my language on these podcasts.
And the Flophouse going strong for I think over 15 years now. You guys started before the Rogans and the Marins showed up to cash their paychecks.
Yeah, I will name check Jordan Jesse Go and You Look Nice Today as the 2 podcasts that I listened to way early in podcasting and made me think, I could try to get in on this. And it was the one time in my life that I I had actual foresight and joined a wave at the right time.
No, you guys are podcast elder statesmen, and we respect you. And it was so awesome having you on, Dan.
Yes, thanks again, Dan.
Thank you.
So thanks again to Dan McCoy for being on the podcast. Please check out the Flophouse. But as for us, if you want to check out more of what we do and get all these episodes 1 week ahead of time and ad-free, please go to patreon.com/TalkingSimpsons. Sign up there for $5 a month. You get just that, but also access to everything behind the $5 paywall. That includes over 100 bonus episodes covering shows like The Critic and Mission Hill and Batman the Animated Series, as well as regular monthly access to our ongoing Patreon exclusive series. Those are Talking of the Hill and Talking Futurama, all happening behind the $5 paywall only at patreon.com/TalkingSimpsons. And there is a $10 level as well. When you sign up for that, you get all the $5 stuff, but also access to one extremely long podcast once a month, only for patrons of that level or higher. And what is that podcast, Henry?
Bob is talking about the What a Cartoon Movie podcast, the premium podcast we proudly present each month at the end of a long month of podcast, where we talk about an animated feature film super duper in depth, just like we do The Simpsons. And that means often talking for over 5 hours, sometimes over 6 hours, about an animated feature film, going into the history and then scene by scene. This summer has been our summer of the Disney Renaissance, so at the end of this month in August, you'll hear us talk about The Rescuers Down Under. The month before that, we did Beauty and the Beast. Month before that, The Little Mermaid. And that's just our most recent ones where we've talked for over 5 hours about animated movies. You can hear us talk for 6.5 hours about Who Framed Roger Rabbit. Other movies include recent ones like Toy Story 3, South Park Bigger, Longer, and Uncut, Millennium Actress, and in the back catalog too, classics like Aladdin, A Goofy Movie, Akira. You got to hear it all. Almost 4 years worth of What a Cartoon monthly episodes. I'd say over 270 hours of podcasts at this point, in addition to all those $5 things Bob just said. Please check it all out at patreon.com/Talking Simpsons.
And as for me, I've been one of your hosts, Bob Mackey. You can find me on Twitter as Bob Servo, and my other podcast is Retronauts. It's a classic gaming podcast all about old video games. You can find Retronauts wherever you find podcasts, or go to patreon.com/Retronauts. Sign up there for 2 full-length bonus episodes every month. And Henry, what about you?
Follow me on Twitter at HENEREYG. I am certainly tweeting up a storm there. And if you're following Bob and me, please also on Twitter, follow the official account of this podcast network. That's at Talk Simpsons Pod. Follow at Talk Simpsons Pod to know when new episodes go up on the free feed, on the Patreon, or when we have polls or other news going on for the podcast. And finally, if you want an easy-to-search directory of all of our previously released free podcasts of Talking Simpsons and What a Cartoon, please head over to TalkingSimpsonsPodcast.com.
Thanks so much for joining us, folks. We'll see you again next time for Season 13's Half Decent Proposal, and we'll see you then.
Spells mom and dad. Well, that ain't too bad, 'cause that's my boy. You can have your TV and your nightclubs.
Lisa, we're going.
But, Dad, I can't find Happy Little Elves in Tinkly Winkly Town.
Just grab something. All these movies are great.